Hi, this is Tim McGovern. I'm a partner with Floyd Zadkovich in the Chicago office. I hope everyone is healthy and safe.
Floyd Zadkovich, International Commercial Lawyers.
During times of economic decline, people and organizations may be tempted to hide assets when they know they could be exposed to liability. We last saw a major increase in fraudulent transfers following the financial collapse of 2008 and 2009. Companies, and particularly closely held companies that are under financial pressure, may attempt a unilateral transfer of an asset to another entity or individual in order to avoid a creditor. And though we often see instances of fraud associated with closely held businesses, publicly traded companies have been involved in such fraudulent schemes as well. For example, just last year, the New York and Chicago offices of Floyd Zadkovich worked together to defeat a summary judgment motion brought by a publicly traded company in a maritime fraudulent transfer case where our client was seeking to recover on a London arbitration award in the amount of $70 million. Fortunately, the law provides remedies to assist creditors in locating and recovering assets that were fraudulently transferred. In the United States, our law is based on the English law, particularly the fraudulent conveyances law, which has been around for hundreds of years. Now, my partners in the London office of Floyd Zadkovich would be able to discuss the intricacies of British law with respect to fraudulent transfers, and particularly the Insolvency Act of 1986. Suffice it to say that the United States legal system adopted the idea that an asset transferred designed to avoid legitimate debts is void. In the United States, most states have adopted a version of the Uniform Fraudulent Transfers Act. Though individual acts from state to state may vary, the gist is that if a transferor has transferred an asset for actual or constructively fraudulent reasons, then the transfer is voidable and the creditor can recover against that asset. When deciding these cases, U.S. courts look for non-exclusive indicators known as badges of fraud. These badges can include an insolvency that would result from the transfer, a lack of consideration for the transfer, whether there was a family or closely held business involved in the transfer, whether the transferor was still benefiting from the use of the asset after the transfer was completed, whether the transfer was performed in secrecy, and whether the transfer was performed in the normal course of business for the transferor. Now, there are many other badges of fraud, and in each situation will have varying circumstances that must be looked at very closely. In the United States, maritime law recognizes the maritime fraudulent transfer as part of subject matter jurisdiction in federal court. What this means is that the federal court has the power to examine a case involving a maritime fraudulent transfer in order to determine if it has jurisdiction. Once the court decides it has jurisdiction over a maritime fraudulent transfer, that court will then look to state law, and typically the Uniform Fraudulent Transfers Act, in order to determine if fraud has occurred. An example: if a creditor was waiting for a vessel to arrive in port in order to attach it in order to satisfy a judgment against the vessel owner, and the vessel owner transferred ownership while the vessel was en route, the U.S. federal court could examine that based on the power provided under a maritime fraudulent transfer, but they would use state law in order to determine whether a fraud had occurred. Of course, this is one example, and disputes related to vessels, cargo, contracts, and a myriad of other things would each have their own unique features that would need to be examined on a case-by-case basis. Our attorneys in New York, London, Chicago, and Houston are available to discuss any of your concerns and help you navigate these difficult situations. I hope you found this presentation informative. Please be sure to share it with your colleagues. Follow Floyd Zadkovich on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. And please continue to check Floyd Zadkovich for additional insights from my colleagues on navigating the difficult waters in these economic times. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you.